Welcome to the Church of Caron, and I have to say I didn't really want to do this tonight just because on the heels of the shootings in Thousand Oaks at the bar and then the yoga shootings, that totals up to 12 and 2, 14. I've got the red ribbons hanging. I didn't have enough candles to light, so I was trying to think of what would be a meaningful tribute, and my daughter helped put these up, but I am so heartsick and saddened. And then of course we hear about the fires and people dying in those as well. The count I think is up to 25 in the Napa area, and then in the LA area, Thousand Oaks again. I think it's 2 so far, but horrible tragedies, and it's hard. It's really hard, I think, to be happy. I easily absorb these stories, as we all do, and it takes its toll. I think about the fact that when I was young, I never thought about anyone coming into my school, coming into my place of worship, coming into a bar, a yoga place. I mean, it's become just a bizarre world, and we need to do so much. There's gun laws that need to be looked into, tightening those up, but also just mental issues. A lot of these people, they already had police records, mental health issues, some of these medications that people get on, it also affects them. And so it's very, very sad, and I feel for my daughter, who, and all of us, thinking about the youth, no matter if we have children or not, just the youth that are coming up and the bizarre world they're in, where it's just random acts of hate. And it's interesting when I think back on the story of the flood from the Bible, from the Old Testament, and God actually had enough of the violence. You can look that up. It wasn't any other sin that aggravated God so much than the acts of violence that were covering the earth. And so she felt the only way to do away with all that violence is to get rid of the violent people that were causing all this violence in a myriad of ways. And, I think about the world globally and all the violence. Asia Bibi, she is a Pakistan Christian, and she was in prison for 8 years, solitary, because she touched a water bucket. And the Muslims in that area believe she's unclean, and so they accused her of blaspheming the Muhammad, and then she said she hadn't, but she had touched the water bucket, and they have freed her. But one of the people that had been working on her case was murdered because he had, and one man has fled the country, one of the attorneys, and several others are in hiding. She has been released to her family, and she's in hiding, but it's terrifying because they want to hang her. And you can look at these pictures, and just thousands are in protest over this. And again, it's something I really can't wrap my head around. But that is going on in our world as well. So I thought, all this hate, and violence. And I was thinking about Miriam in the Bible, and it's kind of an interesting story if you aren't familiar with it. But it's in Numbers, the Old Testament, and it's chapter 12 of Numbers 1 through 16. And I thought I'd just read it. So then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman whom he had married. Now, a Cushite, they were, from what I understand from my research, they were black. And Moses was white, and his sister Miriam is the one, and Aaron, that are the closest to Moses. And so they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us as well? And the Lord heard it. Now the man, Moses, was very humble. I love that. More than any man who was on the face of the earth. And suddenly the Lord said to Moses and Aaron and to Miriam, you three come out to the tent of meeting. So the three of them came out. Then the Lord came down in a pillar of cloud and stood at the doorway of the tent. And he called Aaron and Miriam. When they had both come forward, he said, hear now my words. If there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, shall make myself known to him in a vision. I shall speak with him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my household. With him I speak mouth to mouth, even openly and not in the dark. And he beholds the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? So here is God speaking to Miriam and Aaron, probably most likely instigated by Miriam, because she was the one that was getting all in a tizzy about the Cushite woman that Moses had married. And my reading of this is she was upset because of her darker skin. She was angry. And so it says, the anger of the Lord burned against them, and he departed. But when the cloud had withdrawn from over the tent, behold, Miriam was leprous. And that is not a good thing. As white as snow. So again, when we say, people are white and black, obviously there's not literal white, black. There's so many shades and hues to our pigments. But leprosy makes you white. Really white. And so... So as Aaron turned around toward Miriam, behold, she was leprous. Then Aaron said to Moses, O my Lord, I beg you, do not account this sin to us, in which we have acted foolishly and in which we have sinned. Oh, do not let her be like one dead, whose flesh is half eaten away, when he comes from his mother's womb. And Moses cried out to the Lord, saying, O God, heal her, I pray. He was very forgiving, not only humble, but he was forgiving for what Miriam had instigated. But the Lord said to Moses, if her father had but spit in her face, would she not hear her shame? Would she not bear her shame for 7 days? So evidently that's something that happened back then. I don't know. That's the first time I'm aware of this practice, but fathers spitting in their children's face, perhaps, if they are dishonoring. And then evidently there's 7 days of shame. But God says, let her be shut up for 7 days outside the camp, and afterwards she may be received again. So Miriam was shut up outside the camp for 7 days, and the people did not move on until Miriam was received again. Now you have to understand something about a leprosy at that time. if you were a leper, you couldn't stay within the group because it was very contagious. So she had to go out. Also, you had to yell if you saw anyone coming towards you, unclean, unclean. So here she was so concerned about Zipporah was her name. The Cushite that Moses had married was named Zipporah. I love that name. And Miriam was so wrapped up in just the pigment of her skin, as so many people are. And so God said, you care about your skin so much? You're obsessed about her skin? It's not like your skin? Let me give you some skin. Let's have your skin go ultra white like a friggin' ghost, and then let's have it fall off. See how you think about skin once you have 7 days of meditating and yelling unclean out there outside the camp. And I am sure when Miriam came back, she probably gave Zipporah a big hug and probably asked for forgiveness, I would imagine, because she realized from that, just really, all caught up in someone's skin. Really? Because that's not what we're about. These are costumes, like I've said before. None of us ordered these costumes. We were given these costumes. And so, what matters is the spirit that these costumes hold, because that's really what they're doing. All these costumes are doing is going through an aging process and holding our miraculous spirit. And these bodies are miraculous as well. But they're temporal, but the spirit is eternal. All right, so I just wanted to share that in the midst of all that's been going on. I just thought, God hates violence and God hates racism, and I just felt like I needed to share that and talk about that. The pomegranate. Whoop, there's a little tag, my organic tag. I just wanted to catch up because I failed with the time to not talk about the fact that pomegranates have 3 times more antioxidants than red wine or green tea. Woo! So make sure you get your dosage of pomegranate seeds or pomegranate juice going. I also want to play this amazing musician. This is Gaelynn Lea, and she has a bone disease, and so she's actually the size of her violin, which she plays almost like a cello. And she has a marvelous talk called Sexuality Disability, because this is her wedding to her very handsome husband. And she won the Tiny Desk concert, and you can actually Google this. It's March 11th, 2016, the NPR Tiny Desk music. And in this snippet that I'm going to play for you, she's playing with Alan Sparhawk from the band Low. But again, I just thought this was a lovely, uplifting, happy note to cherish the life we've been given. No matter what costume we're in, it's amazing what we can do when we put our mind to things. So here is some music. She's playing the violin, and you can hear Alan also playing the guitar. And let's remember those who have sadly departed way too early.